Hello and welcome to Designer Market Update. Today is Friday, January 10th, 2025. So the markets were closed yesterday. I thought that we'd be reuniting, but despite the fact that Bitcoin never, of course, closes, I opted to kind of not broadcast something just because we didn't really have any Bitcoin mining stocks to talk about. I was going to show a chart of Bitfarms, which I'm going to do today, and we'll have a short discussion about it. But anyway, that's the reason why we didn't have a broadcast yesterday. It caught me off guard. I only learned very late in the day that markets have been closed simply because of some issues here in the United States with regard to remembering and honoring a former president of these United States of America, President Jimmy Carter. Okay, with that said, Bitcoin currently trading at around 94,000, I think what, 700 and around $700, 94,700, give or take a little bit. The network hash rate has come down a bit. It had been like well over 800. Now it's down to 781. So again, somewhat of a diminishment, but hash prices remain, from my perspective, still subdued at about $55 per petahash. Now, let's pull up today's metalists. So in the very top spot, we had Iris Energy closing up about 5% just about. In the silver position, we had Canaan up just a fractional amount, and then followed by Bit Digital, again up just a fractional amount. Bitfarms actually held up pretty darn well today, closing at $1.61, bearing in mind that like the Dow was down, what, 600-700 points at one point. I think it closed maybe, like down 1.5%. So when you see that the markets really get clobbered, I tended to think to myself, okay, how are Bitcoin mining stocks going to hold up, right? Because if the market as a whole tends to get a punch, some of the companies in this sector, as you may have observed, sometimes really get walloped pretty badly. So on the whole, I think a lot of these companies held up pretty well. The one company in the rock bottom position today is Argo Blockchain, down to 60 cents a share. Some have commented that the company really just has some fundamental balance sheet issues as well as like revenue issues. So, I think that's something that hopefully they'll be able to address in a timely manner because, their stock price just has not been doing very well. Now, let's go ahead and pull up that chart specific to Bitfarms. So let's go ahead and pull that up on the screen. Okay, so as we take a look at this chart, the one thing that really jumps out to me is the fact that we're sort of at, and this is a one-year chart, by the way, we're pretty much right at that roughly $1.50 to $1.60 support level. Now, I'm not a technician by training, but just looking at this chart, it kind of feels as if though we're at least at, in a place where I'm optimistic that the only place we can go is up. Okay, just take a look at this chart. I mean, for a majority of the past year, Bitfarms has traded above $2 a share. Right now, we are below $2 a share. Back to me now, please. So, when I look at a chart like that, I mean, if you zoom it out to 5 years, clearly Bitfarms was trading a lot higher. But the thing is, right, companies like Bitfarms, they're constantly selling stock, or at least as of late, right? That's sort of been the case. So you sort of have to take those longer term charts with a bit of a grain of salt, right? A stock that's at, say, $25 a share when you had maybe half the number of shares outstanding is very different than a stock that's trading as it is today. With that said, next week, I believe it's on the 14th or 15th. I'll have to double check, and we'll certainly talk about this more next week. Bitfarms is going to be in New York City presenting at what I believe is the 27th annual Needham Annual Growth Conference. There is a webcast link, which I do plan to see if I can click on and watch this presentation. Somebody mentioned on X, hey, we haven't really heard from Hash Overdrive, right? Or Overdrive or Override. I kind of forget Ben's username on X, but regardless, the question was, hey, are you concerned, Stephen, that you haven't really heard anything from him in the past couple of months? I mean, on the one hand, look, it's great that a CEO be focused on the business, right, and not sending messages out. But the thing to keep in mind is that Bitfarms itself, right, if you go to like Bitfarms _IO, right, that I believe is their corporate X account. They've been publishing information left and right. And so, you know what, I'm not overtly concerned that the CEO of the company is not on social media posting left and right. I'm very excited and happy to think that Ben is focused on the operations of this business really trying to unlock the value, right, in what's being acquired with Stronghold Digital Mining, and really working to make sure that we hit those milestones that are so critical, right, for Bitfarms to earn, I think, a little bit of that, I don't want to say respect, but sort of like to regain a little bit of that trust, right, amongst the investor base that, hey, you know what, here's a company, they can set a goal, they can keep the goal, they can hit it, they can hit that milestone, they can get that hash rate out, right, and really execute. So I'm perfectly happy to see Ben not necessarily posting as much as other CEOs on X, to the extent the focus is on really getting the message out, as will be done at this Needham growth conference, and as well as overseeing the operations and business and, business fundamentals of the company itself, right? It's great to hear from the CEO. We're going to hear from Ben, if I'm not mistaken, at this conference in New York City next week. So I will certainly be covering that and sharing any insightful tidbits that I seem to pick up that I think might be relevant to share with everyone else. So listen, my friend, with that said, we're going to end today with a quote. This, again, is from a fortune cookie. It says, "The greatest achievement in life is to stand up again after failing." The greatest achievement in life is to stand up again after failing. Think about all the different times that you may have stumbled in life, right? Or feel as if though you've stumbled. And you say to yourself, man, what do I do next? Well, getting up again, dusting yourself off, reassessing the situation and forging ahead, right? Perhaps changing your strategy or modifying it based on whatever results you originally got. That, I do believe, truly is a very, very important part of the recipe towards attaining any kind of achievement. You got to be willing and able to get back up again after failing. Okay, my friend, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again next week.